Hello, everyone. I just want to welcome you in to this conversation. We are celebrating the month of Pride. We are celebrating the LGBTQ2SPIA community. We are taking this moment to tell the stories and to educate. I think there's a lot of stuff that we just don't talk about that
Right.
especially sits around people of color
Right.
and the sense of us being in this community. And so what I would love for us to do is one, let's introduce my dear bro. He's my heart. Just love him to death, but I'm gushing. So in the meantime, I'm gonna let him do an introduction because we always got to start there into this space. So please, Levi, tell us who you are.
Sweet. Well, hello there. My name is Levyi A Love. Pronouns are he and him. I'm an artist and a person who just super enjoys talking about queer stuff, talking about stuff that means a lot to me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's nothing really formal. Just a guy that just likes to have conversations and such. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
I actually, know some of the journey, and I think that, there's so much to who you are. And in fact, I am going to make sure that we put a post to his new song. Y'all gotta hear Hot Cocoa. Y'all gotta hear it. I am in love with this song. In fact, I wanted us to open up to that piece, but you never know if y'all have copyright on it. I should have asked you before, but I really want you to hear the magnificence of this song. It truly is one that for me is powerful. And I feel and hear your heart as you speak those words. And with that, right? I feeling it too. With that, I really would appreciate if you tell us a little bit about your celebration into queerness. Tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
So like how everything started and all that?
All of it, yes. Whatever you feel like sharing.
So I'm trans. I've been transitioning for about almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years next month. It's been quite some time. I've had top surgery. I've all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty exciting. I guess it just began where one day I was actually sitting in this like girls group, if you will, and I just started to feel like I wasn't really one of them. Like I felt like an outcast, and it was really like open this time around. Like it was really, what's the word? Just really like noticeable. And so essentially what happened was I went home. I went home and I saw this video of this like trans guy who was, like all bulky and Hulk and like really good looking and like burning sage. And I don't know, at them times like that really spoke to me. I was like, oh my God, he's burning sage, like whatever. So I was like, yeah, let's do it, right? And for a while, I didn't really know. I think I needed to see that black people do this. Like black people also transition, and it's not weird. It's not just a white person thing. Like black people also like, dive into this type of stuff as well. And they're also trans and non-binary. And blackness isn't even really a thing. It was something that has been placed on us as a label. Like we are the original humans, in my opinion. We are where it began. So I feel like everything comes from us. So, queerness originated with us, transness originated with us, non-binary originated with us. And we're not like, not to like, put aside Native folks, but like, I truly believe that Native people, like are black too. Like we all like come from Africa, in my opinion. And then before, transatlantic slave trade, we migrated and populated other parts of the earth. And then dependent on where you were in the hemisphere, your skin got lighter or got darker. That's my beliefs of everything. But yeah, you're black. So essentially, basically, following that, I was really actually learning about my blackness and actually learning about like how beautiful it is and stuff, and like starting to accept my dark skin. And dark skin is not really something to accept, but it's more to like embrace, right? And I was really trying to find, ways to embrace myself and embrace who I am as a person. And so with that, came embracing like my queer identities. And so essentially, I'm not straight. I'm not exactly sure what like that means otherwise, but like I know for sure like I'm not straight. And essentially, like with that being said, like that basically just means that like I don't know, I've just been on a journey ever since, just trying to figure out like what I want to do and who I am and like what I like and all that stuff. And so then I took my first testosterone shot in July of 2019 or 18 rather, and it's been life-changing ever since. I can honestly tell you that trans people are not going crazy. Like we are sitting here and we're really trying to tell you that we feel boxed in. We feel like, and for me, I felt boxed in. I felt very, weird about my body. I felt like even in the summer, I thought it was because of like different assaults I went through that like caused me to not want to embrace my feminine body. But it's like, I transitioned long after, assaults took place. In fact, I think the year that I transitioned, nothing happened. I think it was a cool year. And so it felt really, well, that's not entirely true, but it wasn't as burdensome as it was before, if you will. And I've survived a lot of stuff, and people always say, oh, well, it's because you went through so much, da 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 da. I'm like, yeah, of course. And like, even after my transition, I was a survivor of assaults and such. So really and truly, and I don't have regrets about transitioning, right? Like I don't have regrets about that. So when people like say that kind of line to me and they try to tell me, oh, it's because you've been through X, Y, and Z, and oh, it's because your mom's not around. Like I think it's bogus, because for me to give anybody that form of power to like, start a life altering process of changing my name legally and like going through this whole transition just because somebody hurt me, I just don't see the power in that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't see where I'd want to offer myself as a sacrifice to somebody else's views or somebody else's views of my body and views of me. I think it's really important to note that I have agency as a man. I have agency. Just like I had agency as a woman. Like I have agency and choice. And if I feel like my life would be more productive if I moved as a man, and not because of the hegemony and how society's run today, but more because in myself I feel more confident. In myself, I feel like I show up in the room much brighter and much more authentic, being me rather than trying to be anything else. Then I realized that like I did the right thing, and it's not about anybody else. It's not about other people's opinions or other people's, versions of events and in my life, or like it's not about anything like that. It's purely about me waking up every day feeling like I'm in the body that makes sense to me. Of course, I'm gonna have to wear scars for the rest of my life. When I go for lower surgery, there's gonna be a big scar on my leg, but these scars are the scars that I wear proudly, because I'd much rather have gone through the pain of healing from surgeries than go through the pain of not knowing who I am. The surgery pain only lasts 3 to 6 months, and then after that you're good. But imagine I lived the total lifespan of, let's say, 95 years. I lived 95 years, and let's just say if we totaled up the amount of time of surgeries, let's say about a year or two of that 95 years, right, after I've transitioned, so maybe 50 years later, 50 years I passed, right? In 50 to 60 years, if 1 to 2 of those years were spent healing, right, I have now, what is that math? I have 48 more years or so.
Oh yeah, right. Because we went to the 40. Yes.
Yeah. 48 more years. Exactly. 48 more years of living blissfully. Thank you. Living blissfully and living in my truth and living exactly how I feel like I should live. And so in conclusion, I think that, trans people should be able to be more in the forefront, because it's actually a really natural process. You'll see it in Native cultures. You'll see it in African cultures. You'll see it everywhere. Everybody goes through some form of a transition or some form of a rites of passage. For me, my rites of passage to manhood is maybe the way I predict my before I came into the world story is my soul. I feel like I'm an old soul personally. I don't know if anybody else is like a skeptic out there or one of those like weirdos out there, but I'm definitely a weirdo, okay? And I definitely feel like I had a past life before. And maybe I was a man in my past life, definitely black, for sure. I definitely have a black soul. And so I was like a black guy from like maybe the 70s or 80s. And maybe something really tragic happened and I died. And then came again in 95, But this time, maybe I did something horrible in my last life and God wanted me to see how it's like being a woman. Or maybe, you know, in my family bloodline, right, there has been really garbage examples of masculinity. And maybe God wanted me to experience life as a woman first, so I would not be tempted to do the things that my dad did or my brother's doing, or all these other kind of stuff that's happening in my family, which I'm not incredibly proud of. So now I'm horrified. And not that sexual assault is my fault. No, it's more just saying, getting to see the world through a woman's eyes and seeing what women have to go through on the daily, and understanding like how to speak to a woman and how to treat people with respect, you know, without, you know, feeling like because I'm a man, I get to have, you know what I mean? Like I've already gone through the toxic masculinity phase throughout the time I was a woman and being a stud and stuff like that. And now entering into manhood, now I feel like, okay, so we know that if you talk to a girl like that, women don't like that. They're not interested in you forcing yourself to, you know, have conversations with them because you feel like you're entitled to talk. You know, women are allowed to change their minds. They're allowed to like you one minute and then not like you the next. It's up to you what you do from there. You don't force women to like somehow stay by you and convince them to love you. That doesn't make any sense. Like, think these little like things that like, you know, little boys should be taught but are often not, I got to learn firsthand. You know what I mean?
Experience, live experience.
Exactly.
Sorry, don't mind me. I'm just closing my window again. It's starting to rain.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, so just to wrap up again, like, you know, that's pretty much it. Like, I feel very confident in who I am now, and I feel very blessed. Even though it was a quite tumultuous time, not being myself, it feels good to like now that I know who I'm not, I can now know who I am. You know what I mean? That's where it is. So thank you for that. Yeah.
I am just, you know, really reveling in so much of what you said. There's so much truth to the spaces to which you have touched upon. So I'm just going to go back because there's a couple of things I want to comment on, right? And one being, when you mention our origins, when you mention where we come from, and how we have stood up in our positioning, in the ways that we have seen our sexuality, seen our genders, I think it's worth a mention in the way that you did that, you know, we have been colonialized.
Right.
And because of the way that the perceptions of the colonial system, it really played into the way that we as people of color, those of us who were colonialized, have seen our viewpoints. They were not, it's so interesting. I also do another podcast, which you know, called Medicine for the Resistance, and it's myself and an indigenous woman who's Ashkenazi, and we talk about very much how we all exist in the same way and who we were before we were invaded. And so for us in many indigenous cultures, and I think it was so relevant when you said that we are all Black. What I love to say is that we are all indigenous to somewhere. Right? Indigeneity is our origins. It's our beginnings. And so many of that is interconnected, entwined. And when we went through this system of colonialism, we actually lost some of those original ways of being. There are certain indigenous tribes, and even in our African understandings, where binary did not exist in the way that we have structured it now. The idea of the masculine and the feminine were not as stringent or strict, that people who identified otherwise were revered as a unique wisdom in communities, unique understandings, and were held up as leaders in our communities. But because it didn't fit a narrative, we were shunned and shied away from those spaces. So I love when you mention that part of the journey, because what I think it has done, as it has caused a rift in the way that we are able to show up. It has caused us to disconnect from the fullness of what our space is. And I just want to witness you, celebrate you for being in the truth and standing up in your power, because you are like, you know, cutting away the layers and just being who you are choosing to be. And in that exploration, you are actually opening doors and allowing others into the journey. Because, see, in my world, I believe that our sexuality, our binary, our non-binary spaces, we are on a scale, you know.
Right.
If I think I mentioned it the last time we talked, I said, you know, if you ever watch an adult movie and, you know, you ain't just looking at what you're supposedly attracted to. You're watching the whole picture. You're watching if it's heterosexual sex. You're watching that man and that woman. You're not just, you know, closing your eyes if you're a dude and just watching the woman, or closing your eyes if you're a girl and just watching the man. You're watching the whole scene. And if that's causing some tinglies in places, maybe it's not just sitting in one space for you. Just saying. And I think because we've put so many layers around that space, it has become challenging for us to be able to see that maybe there is so much more attached to this essence of our truth. So when we talk about truth, what has it been for you being a queer, Black, sovereign being? What has that been for you? What does that journey look like?
Interesting.
I love that word.
I think that when I first transitioned, I found myself I guess it's kind of interesting because I feel like after I get bottom surgery, I may not be as attracted to guys as I am right now. I think I'm just so fascinated by guys and their whole package that I'm just like, oh, I want to be you, you know? For that reason, I don't see myself falling in love with men. I think I'm genuinely sexually attracted to men, but I don't necessarily think that that's something that men should take and run with and be like, oh my God, Levi wants to date me, because that's often not going to be the case. It's usually just a one night only kind of thing. But with women, however, women are people who I actually want to be with, romantically as well, and who I can see myself with in a future sense. Yes. So, sorry, forgive me, that's the phone there. But yeah, so
we're live and real here, baby. Sometimes you can hear a phone ring. Keep it up. Good.
Yeah, but essentially that's pretty much been the case. You know, it's just been it's been kind of fluctuating, but I feel like there's definitely been a heightened sense of sexual attraction to guys ever since I started transitioning. But I think more often than not, it's me just wanting to be them. And then also a mixture of me being afraid to continue transitioning, because sometimes that change can be really jarring and really a lot. Transitioning, it is fun, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, it's fun having a deeper voice, and it's fun, you know, having a kick-ass beard, and all these things are fun. But sometimes it gets a bit challenging, you know, thinking about my past and thinking about all that kind of stuff, and then you know, putting it into the forefront. And then sometimes I catch myself a little bit early on in my transition, you know, dating women who are not interested in men, or interested in me because I'm a man, but because I'm a trans guy, which means that I may or may not have certain genitalia that, you know, I did before, right? So that's really important to me, to find people who are interested in me for me, you know what I mean?
See, and I love what you're saying here. And once again, I just want to honor just how candid how candid and real you are being about this whole process for yourself.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is that although you are stepping into your truth, that you know that it is the space of you, anybody, we all have journeys with understanding how we are going to place ourselves in our sexuality. Right?
Yeah.
And I love your honesty there, because for me, I know I identify as a bisexual woman, and interestingly enough, one of the things that I've been really kind of ruminating on is I think I'm more a pansexual woman. And what, you know, I think we should talk a little bit about the differences, maybe unpack this, the differences between how you can sit in your sexuality versus how we sit in our genders. and what that is supposed to look like. Because I think
sure.
I think for most hetero or cis people, that understanding gets kind of blurred. So what would you offer in and around that? Because I think you said so much that was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And so with gender and sexuality, very simply put, gender is who you are and sexuality is who you fuck. That's pretty much exactly what it is. Like, there's nothing really to it. You know what I mean? I think that folks who are straight and who are, non-trans, I say straight because, like, those people who are like Bible thumper straights, those ones like, you're like, I'm straight, like they're coming in flaming hot. It's like, chill, dude, like no one cares. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're valid, so just shut up, it's fine. So like, like for those folks, I just want to say that, like, whenever you say, oh, I'm not, gay, I'm not transgendered, like, it sounds really ignorant, so maybe don't say that ever again. Maybe embrace that, who you have sex with is very different from who you are. And also there are things like, hetero flexible, where you would be down for a threesome, for example, like, me as a man, and like, maybe my girl and then a guy of her choosing would want to have sex with her, and that's completely fine. It doesn't make me gay to like participate in having sex with a man, and like with a woman, with another man. There are all different types of stuff, but that might be a bit too complicated. Don't overthink it. Just overthink it. Just know that if you as a woman see another woman and your genital area doesn't get excited, 9 times out of 10 you're straight. Okay, just think about it like that. If you see another man and you don't get excited, but you see another woman and you do get excited, then you're probably not straight. You know what I mean? So just, again, like, these are the things, like, and then for your gender, it's like, when people call you he and him and a man, and that troubles you, you might want to rethink, your pronouns, right? Like, maybe you're not a guy, maybe you are a woman, maybe you're non-binary. Like, gender expression is something to be explored, right? And actually, on that note, there's also, now we understand gender and sexuality as gender being who you are, sexuality being who you fuck or who you love and whatever. For those of you who do have sex, some people don't have sex. Maybe you're just romantic to people as well. So, which is the
A in asexual, right? Yeah. Meaning asexual. Keep going. Exactly,
right? So when it comes to okay, gender, right? If you want to just stay on the topic of gender for a little bit, because sexuality it's so insanely diverse, right? Gender is the same thing, but it's a bit more scalable, in my opinion. So, for argument's sake, there are 3 genders. There are non-binary, male, and female, right? Those are the genders. Within that, you have subsects. So there's like, transgender guy, transgender girl, cisgendered guy, cisgendered girl. Now, trans and cis, all that means is, transgender just basically means that you woke up one day and said, LOL, I don't agree with what the doctor said, this is who I am for real. And then you come out again, you know what I'm saying? And then with non-transgender people, those folks are like, yeah, the doctor said I'm a girl, sick. And they live their entire lives as a girl and they have no issues about it. So that's essentially what it is on like a very primary level. And then for same thing with non-binary, we're like, look, I woke up one day and my doctor was like, I'm a boy, but honestly, I don't feel like I'm anything. I don't feel like I'm a boy or a girl, or I feel like I'm both. And that is non-binary or gender fluid. Now, I don't exactly know the difference between gender fluid and non-binary, but I know for certain that non-binary just basically means you're not a man or a woman, or maybe you identify as both. That's from what I understand. But I'm not non-binary, so you have to Google that a little more. But that's essentially what I understand.
I love it. I think you did a beautiful summation all the way around on both gender and also on our realms in the rainbow of sexuality, the scale of sexuality. I think you did a great job. And you're right. It is my understanding. I too, don't identify as non-binary, but it's really more about feeling into that space if you're gender fluid, right? You can feel one day and stand up as your more masculine energy or your masculine side, or you can stand up more on your feminine side the next day. Or you may just decide that neither one of them you're the blend of. It's just about how you want to embrace the body, the space that you are in. And I love that everything that you said, because I believe that, and I think it's a human thing, really, that there's a need for us to understand. And yes, we have polarities that exist. We know that there are specific laws in the way that the universe is set up. So I do want to just say and preface with that. But I think there is this very human need to understand the enormity of our space, right? As we are tucked into this body. Our bodies are temples, but I believe that our souls are this immense, expansive space that maybe we couldn't fit all of it into our bodies. So some of it is still kind of nebulous, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when we are dealing with such intimate and intricate understandings like non-binary and binary, understand our scale of sexuality, you know, it leaves us open, because there's also, once again, I bring it back to how we are programmed in this society, especially as people of color, that allow us to sit here, because it doesn't make sense if they can't keep you in certain boxes, right? They can't control you if you're not in the box.
Right.
So I do believe that's something that we offer up and into that space. So thank you so much for that share. I think that in itself, like if we were to cut this right now, we gave the audience all the money that they need to come with.
Right.
But,
oh man.
But when you talk about, you know, the sense of the journey, sitting in it as a Black person, I want to kind of narrow in a little bit and just, you know, feel into what feels shareable to you, please.
Yeah.
No triggering. I don't want you to do that. But let's talk about what it has been to be queer and Black.
Yeah, it's a lot more acceptance than I was actually anticipating. There are different subsects of people. Like, of course, you know, you have people who are like rallying for me, people who've been super, you know, deeply supportive since day one, people who've encouraged me to transition. Like I have one aunt in particular who said, her words were, don't let her, my girlfriend at the time, don't let her stop you from, you know, transitioning, things like that, like, you know, be yourself kind of thing. And and she's a Black Guyanese woman, like from Guyana. So it was, for me, it felt very like wholesome and very beautiful to, you know, witness Black adults be such an integral part of my identity and my journey of finding myself. And then of course you have the people who are like just really annoying and talking to me about how like you're not gonna be able to give birth and, you know, I'm like, but I don't want children biologically. Like there are so many questions, right? Like even if I were to remain as a woman, if that's the first argument you come up with, you should probably reevaluate your view of women. You know, first of all, like, does it make you less of a woman because you don't have a womb? Because there are women who are born without wombs. Like there are women who are born without the ability to give birth, and so does she now no longer a woman because of it? Like it's so weird. And it's like people's views on the queer community directly correlates with their views on women. It's like exactly the same. You can, if you can tell a woman, you can tell a person by the way they talk about women if they're gonna accept your queerness or not. Like you can tell off the bat, you know what I'm saying? Like, and of course, like there's accepting the queerness, which again, acceptance isn't a thing. This is your fucking identity. Pardon my language. Like this is who you are. You walk into this world like this, like you accept credit card bills, okay? You accept, you know, you accept the fact that your lotion ran out and you have to go get a new bottle. You accept the fact that your guitar string broke. You don't accept somebody's identity, right? Like it's so weird. Like that's such a weird concept. So this whole, oh, I accept you, like that's really disgusting. And it's something that some people should really unpack, because what does that mean? Right? It's like the cop saying, I accept that you're Black, man. I'm not gonna kill you today. Like, are you sparing me? What the fuck is that? Like, there's so much more nuance. So anyways, essentially, you know, being Black and queer isn't a weird thing. I've discovered a lot about, like, you know, how there was queerness in Cameroon, there was queerness in Angola, there's queerness in Kenya, there's queerness in Egypt, and Egypt is part of Africa, by the way. And there's like, there is like queerness all around, you know, so people completely understand that queerness is inherently a Black thing. It's inherently an Indian thing. It's inherently a Native thing. It's inherently our thing. Like it's not a new thing. And that's what I learned. And I just remember being the person on Facebook all the time, constantly like berating these Black men who would just constantly be like, oh, queer people are likened onto pedophiles and they're all the kind of crap. And I'm like, okay, so there's one person I do know who is queer and a pedophile, but understanding this, his pedophilia has nothing to do with him being gay. Him being gay is solely based on the fact that that's how he was born. His pedophilia is what the mental disorder is. It's nothing to do with, being, that doesn't make any sense. So because I like men, I like little boys, like make it make sense. That doesn't make any sense. Like in queerness, there is consent. Consent is a constant conversation within the queer community. And if people took 5 minutes to talk to a queer person who had the energy to talk to them, you would then realize, hey, like, you know what I mean? So for me, the journey of being Black and queer has been relatively well accepted, relatively good. I'm definitely one of the fortunate ones because I came out in a time where queerness was popular and popping, and it was cool to be trans and cool to be queer. So I just kind of continued to ride that wave, unintentionally, of course. But hey, it doesn't hurt, you know what I'm saying, to come out during this wave, right? And so I would also say that, like, it was also quite disheartening, like learning about the amount of Black people who are super ignorant, and who don't understand how much colonialism still lives in their veins and lives in their DNA. It's unfortunate to have to sit down and have conversations with grown-ass people about who I am and trying to, like, as if I need to prove something to them. Like, it's one thing to not understand and want to learn, and it's another thing to not understand, not want to learn, but present yourself like you want to understand, just to bait me into a conversation so that you can tell me about your Christianity and about how God hates me, or da 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 da. Like, I don't want to hear none of that shit, or about how I'm confused. That was a conversation I got a lot, where I'm confused, and I'm like, I've never felt more found in my life. I've never felt more seen and more secure and more in my body, in my life. Like, I don't look at my life differently anymore. Like, I look at my life as if it's my own and it's my responsibility. Exactly. And through that, there's been a lot of growing. Like, I've been learning about finances and I've been learning about all this different stuff. And I feel like the pinnacle of this was when I decided to transition, because making this one decision, now I feel like all the dreams that my brain had prior to my transition can now be realized, because now I feel like I'm myself. So I say all that just to like to die down. It's just, listen, like, being Black and queer are not separate. They're actually one and the same. In African culture, there are some countries who actually regard being trans as like a rites of as like a gatekeeper. Like, we are like the people you come to in community for looking for wisdom, when it comes to like your gender and your relationships and whatever the case may be, because we know what it's like to be a man and a woman. We know what it's like. So we understand from both perspectives. If we stand in both worlds and lead you and guide you, that's how we were regarded. And also to note that there's a country in Africa, I can't remember which one it is, who doesn't even gender their babies. They wait until they get older and then let them gender themselves. And so for me, I don't know if I'm comfortable raising my child non-binary, but what I will say to you is that I'll raise the kid how I think the kid is. And if the kid turns around and says, "Daddy, honestly, I'm actually a girl," sick, then we just rearrange everything and just adjust. And it's not that deep. That's it. You just get up and you adjust. There's no apologies needed, no nothing. You assume something, just like when you're talking to a trans person. You don't know if I identify as non-binary or as a woman or as a man. You have no idea. You only assume based on what you've been taught masculinity looks like, that I'm a man. It just so happens that I'm a man, so it makes sense this time. So you call me he and him, I don't get offended. That's my pronoun. However, if that wasn't my pronouns and you to approach me calling me he and him, I would just gently be like, actually my pronouns are they and them, or my pronouns are she and her. And then you would just be like, sick. That your response is okay, and continue on in the sentence with my new pronoun, with my pronouns. Does that make any sense? So I just want to say all that to say that, like, being queer and being Black, they're not separate. They're actually the same.
All of that and a bag of chips and then some. I really, you really touched some things that I think take us right into the next section of this. That this idea or understanding of, and you cleared so much of it up, but understanding the desire to be called what we are, right? Understanding the desire to be able to identify as we are. And so what I mean with that, and you just said it, but I'm gonna ask you, do you feel, because I know that in my practice, in my world, I will normally ask now. I make no assumptions of what a person wants to be gendered or wants to be used. So I just simply will ask, what are your pronouns?
Right.
And I think there is some conversation I'd love for us to have around that. I think a lot of people don't understand why that's important. I think you explained that, but could you maybe offer out some tips as to how to just approach that?
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, go ahead. How do we just approach that?
So while so I just want to say that, like, you know, for me as a trans person, I'm not non-binary. So I can start off the jump by, if you don't know somebody's gender pronouns, make the assumption and allow them to correct you. That's where it is. It's not about, oh, I don't want to misgender them. So like, don't get in your head about it. And not you, like people who are watching, stop. Okay, like a small percentage of us are non-binary. The majority of us trans people are binary. Like, so if we look like this, it's because we want to be called like this. It's not, don't call me they and them. Don't ever do that. That is super dysphoric and like really weird, because that's not my pronouns. Definitely don't call me she and her, because why? Why would that even come to your mind at this point? You know what I mean? Like, there are so many, so like, I just want to say, like, based on the majority census of what I've heard from trans people and what I just prefer you call me how you think I am. And if I don't like what you think, if I don't like what you're saying, I'll just correct you. And that's where you need to be open up to receive that. So yeah, that's it. Like, just be open. Don't bother with the I'm so sorry's. I don't want to hear it. No one wants to hear it. It's because it feels very like taxing, like almost like I have to do the emotional labor to now bring you back to life because you're so embarrassed that you misgender. It's not that deep. And this is where cancel culture and all this kind of shit comes in, and just, it's a whole lot of garbage. Dude, just do your best, show up, do your best, call me what you think I am, and let me correct you. That is the whole thing. That's it. That's what I would say. Do not default to they and them. It's just lazy and weird. Like, just call me. It's not brave. Like, just say what you think I am, and then I will correct you. That is where the community, that's where the dialogue comes from. I don't mean to say like laziness as if it's a thing. I more just say it's too PC. It's too trying to be politically correct. Stop. Like, we don't want that, because it's inauthentic. If you in your mind think I'm a man, say that, and then allow me to correct you from the brain stem out, rather than just you performing that you think I'm a guy. Don't perform for me. Just call me what you think. That's it.
I don't got nothing to add. You said it beautifully, because that's exactly it, y'all. If you come across a scenario, go with what the flow is. If you are corrected, just say okay and use the right pronoun.
That's it.
That simple.
It really is. It truly and honestly, and most trans people are not going to be offended. And the ones that you come across that are offended are either new trans people, white, or just white in like the performance sense, like that, oh, I need to have all these labels. Like, you don't. You just need to be yourself. And labels are a beautiful, I don't mean to rag on white people, I'm sorry, but it's real. Like, every time I'm into the queer community, in the white queer community, like, they're all, oh my god, I'm, demisexual. Like, it's a lot. And it's just like, cool, be yourself, but like, also, bruh, like, and the fact that like people know the whole acronym of the LGBT, 90% of us don't even know it. We're just like, hey, I'm into this, and we don't care. We just kind of show up, you know what I mean? So
I love that, because this is going to be, I would love for us to do another conversation, because I think there's a lot even in that realm of understanding that there is like almost a political side that is about this space as well, that is kind of adds some layers to all show up. And even as a community, you know, I think this is important to say, we are humans. We are human beings at our essence, at our core. We gonna fight. We are going to have misnomers. We are going to have things that causes, dissonance. We fam, but fam don't always see things all the same way. Right. And I think it is imperative to denote that, especially as us being Black and queer, that there are layers even in that political siding of how all of it stands up. But to me, that's a whole other conversation. That's a breakdown. We know that there's still, once again, this space of colonialism. There's a hierarchy that exists, and we won't talk about that here. We're all about the education and the love right now. So if you're up for it, we'll come back and do that conversation. And with that, my darling, I just want to tell you, how amazing this conversation was. You covered so much information, and I hope you guys watch this all the way through, because Levi dropped some gems of just how you can stand up and be not just an ally, but just be. Be. Right. And I really was hoping, and I think we got there, to take some of the mystery that we think surrounds this space of being queer and being non-binary and being trans, and just realize he gets up in the morning, man.
That's it.
He got to do what he's got to do, just like all of us. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, but he's doing him. And there's nothing that detracts from that. It's a journey that we are all on. Thank you, my darling, for sharing the space with
Anytime.
me, right? Please let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's start there.
Sure. So if you have an Instagram, you can follow me at Sir Levyi. It's Levyi. The first, the number one, and then ST, the first, and then an underscore at the end. So it's Sir Levyi the first. And that is my name. On Facebook, it's Levyi A Love. So again, Levyi A.love. You'll see a picture of Malcolm X pop up. That's me. And then that's essentially it. You can check out my new song, Hot Cocoa, on Spotify. It's hot and then COCOA. I don't know why I spelled Coco like that. Don't ask me questions. I just did it.
I loved it, actually.
And then I looked back and I was like, I feel like I spelled it wrong, but we're already here, and that's it.
I actually really love. There's a smoothness to the song, right? I'm really just pumping it because I do love the song. Seriously, I've been listening to it. Like I went to bed to it last night. Not even joking.
Wow.
But there's a smoothness to the song, and it really does give me that taste of sweetness. Like when you do drink hot chocolate,
yes.
I felt that. So for me, there's a brilliance in it. I didn't realize you felt a ways about it, actually.
I know, I felt the way about the way I spelled the name. I misspelled Coco.
Did you? I thought it was creative. I didn't pick up on it at all.
Okay, great. Well,
I thought you were just opening your creative flip. You guys are getting a bit of a gem here. Hey, you're getting a behind the scenes on this. I got it exclusive. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
It will be lit. I'm going to put that link, honestly, on this podcast. All of it will be here. We will be in the space of it all. So thank you yet again. You are the best. Love you all the way.
Love you too.
And we are out.